for having us here with you today. One of the main reasons, of course, we're here today is to share our knowledge about some grants that exist right now that have been helping a lot of small to medium businesses and some larger businesses that have got hit very hard, obviously, with COVID over the last year, especially when it came to 2020 and those critical months of March and April and everything thereafter due to the shutdowns. And the great thing is these grants that are being given out in British Columbia, and there is one federal grant, are really geared towards helping businesses get online, help them with their PPE, with protective gear, and also helping, for example, restaurants even have some patio area outside where they can serve customers safely. So Peter and I are here going to go through a few different things. If we can move to the next slide, that would be great. So basically today we're going to do a little bit of introduction, a little bit about us. We're going to go through the 3 different grants that we have, are looking at that are very active right now and where you can get money. And then we'll leave it for some questions and answers at the very end. So why don't we get into the next slide so we can tell a little bit about ourselves. And Peter, would you like to go on into this one here?
Sure thing. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, so I'm Peter, everyone. I actually been a resident in Maple Ridge for most of my life. And as a result, I was a client of just a lot of local businesses, florists, grocery stores, auto shops, etc. And so when I heard about the grant, I just wanted to reach out to Flory and share what we've learned so we can help businesses make a pivot and grow. We're both with Agency Media. It's a full-size marketing agency. We're just over the Golden Years Bridge here on 200th and Langley. So we produce content like video, we build websites, we run campaigns, all these tools essentially to share a client's story, bring in more leads for local businesses, all of that. We're actually part of the Westland group of companies, and in that group of companies is Sky Helicopters, which has their base of operations here at Pitt Meadows Airport. So we represent a range of industries. We have a lot of entrepreneurial experience amongst us. Chris has been an entrepreneur. A lot of us have run our own little businesses. And so we can definitely relate with our clients. We've worked with retail. We've worked with tourism. If you go to the next slide briefly. Just to showcase that we've covered a range of industries here. But we're here primarily today to talk about these grants. So we'll move on to the next slide, and I'll let Chris kind of start us off on that.
Okay, great. So I've actually personally applied for the first 2 that you see there from left to right. So the Provincial Recovery Grant, and then the Launch Online Grant, which is the middle one. And then Peter's going to talk about the United Small Business Relief Grant. So let's get right into the details of the next slide. So that's the Provincial Recovery Grant. So this one will give businesses from $10,000 to $30,000 each of a grant, so obviously you don't have to pay it back. And for those businesses that have anything related to tourism, there's an additional top-up from $5,000 up to $15,000. So for my example, I ran a photography business, and the 3 main sources of revenue that I had in that business was selling prints to retail galleries. And of course, last March, almost all the galleries were closed down, and over 50% have shut down permanently. My second line of income was trade shows. Of course, that got locked out. And then number 3 was traveling around the world, teaching people photography. So you can imagine for a business like mine, where all sources of revenue are shut out, this is going to be something helpful for me down the road. So basically, for someone earning under $100,000, you're automatically able to start at that $10,000 mark, all the way up to $30,000 for companies that earn $3 million gross or more. Now, the way they define the eligibility is not it's not based on the whole year of revenue, but they only want to look at 1 month out of the entire year where you had a 30% loss of revenue in 2020 versus 2019. So during that critical month of March, if you were shut out or shut down, then you were probably clearly going to have a 30% loss. And that's the only month that happens to need to count. So you can actually earn more in the total of 2020 than 2019 and still be eligible. The good thing is they've just extended the deadline. It was at the end of this month until August 31st. Now, I've been working with a corporate agency for accounting that has been sponsored by the BC government to help applicants go through the process of the application, because it is a bit complicated. And since I'm not an accountant, this has been very useful for me. And because they're sponsored by the BC government, you don't have to get charged for any work they do for you. So it's basically a free service. They'll walk you through the process. They could tell you whether you're eligible or not, and then make sure that when you do the application form, it's done properly. And yeah, then you got all your ducks in a row, which would be great. So this one is definitely something that if you are interested in to reach out to Peter or I, we can put you in touch with Statement, and then you can go from there with them through that process. Now, in terms of what you can use it for, this particular grant has quite a wide range of different uses. So we will provide you with the links to the actual URLs for these, and on there is a much more detailed list of things you can use it for. But some very quick ones, just so I could tell you right now, is you can definitely get, for example, plexiglass for inside your building to make it safer, some PPE. If you have a restaurant and need an outdoor patio, need some money towards that, that is something you can absolutely do. In fact, you can backdate previous purchases back to September of 2020, so that if, as long as you have those receipts, you may be able to apply some of those previous purchases to this grant. And of course, one thing they do want to encourage, and that is to get your business online. That means a new website. It could mean video, it could be digital marketing, could be SEO, search engine optimization. And that's the part where Peter and I can help. So that's the BC Recovery Grant. I'm going to go into the next slide now. And this is the OnLaunch Online Grant. So this one's a little bit trickier to explain, but basically they're willing to pay up to 75% of a cost of getting your business online. So that means $7,500 is also the maximum amount they're willing to give. So basically that means you spend $10,000 on a quotation for a website, and then you will be obviously have to pay $2,500 of it, but then you basically get reimbursed for the $7,500. So you're getting a $10,000 product for $7,500. So they're very specific on this one. You need to earn at least $30,000 in 2019 to be eligible to start with, gross. And the other thing is you need to be able to sell a physical product. So if you're just selling services like a dentist, then unfortunately that does not work for this particular grant. So, but if you're selling any kind of physical product, the whole idea of this particular grant is to help the brick and mortar stores that are typically retail be able to get an online shopping store and start selling online and get into the online world business of selling. And that's one thing that's happened after COVID is the way people are shopping is really going to move online to their mobile phones. So you want that really nice mobile website where you can add a shopping cart. There are certain criterias, just so you know. So even if you have a shopping cart already, it may not have there's 5 requirements they're looking for in terms of specific criteria to meet, and you don't meet all of those yet, then you might be still eligible for the fund. So for further information on this, of course, then again, contact Peter or I. We can go into a little bit more detail since there's so much information, and I'm trying to let you know about these grants as much as I can, and then we'll have some questions and answers. And of course, if you wanted to reach out to us, we can go even into more detail and help you determine if you're eligible or not. So so this is a great one especially for those who need that online shopping cart website. So Peter, you're going to take care of the next one, I think, and we can.
That's right. So yeah, we'll go into the next slide. So this one's a bit of a mouthful, the Canada United Small Business Relief Fund. This one, unlike the other two, applies federally, and admittedly gives out less. It's only a maximum of $5,000, but included it on the list. I would recommend using the two that Chris had mentioned, but there's still some things that this covers as well that still can apply to us. So renovating your business to meet COVID guidelines at the moment. If you have to do purchasing of PPE, hand sanitizer, that sort of thing, but then also enhancing your website and the ability to sell online. So it can apply to any of these small to medium-sized companies as long as they're under 75 employees. Nonprofits can actually apply for this one. I want to make that clear distinction, because sometimes some of these grants are exclusive of nonprofits. They can apply as long as they're not part of any governmental branch or municipality, organization, etc. And then you need to just make sure you hit a minimum sales last year of 150K and not exceed 3 million. So kind of again in that small to medium sized range there. But this federal grant can actually be a nice little niche if somehow you can't apply for the other two, if something was already covered in those two, or there's just some kind of part of the application process that didn't work out. So I would recommend going with the previous ones. Again, you can reach out to Chris and I anytime. We're here to answer those kind of questions. If we go to the next slide, please, you can find how to contact us. You can phone, those are our cell numbers right down there, emails. We're just up the road if you ever want to take a walk around Langley there. We're happy to walk you through some ideas. But yeah, I think there's a lot of these grants out here that the government's putting out anyway. They're already there. So there's no reason why we can't try and make use of these and find ways that we can have businesses make that pivot, make that change, and be able to recover fully, if not grow from this. So that about covers everything from us in the immediate. I mean, but we're opening up for questions at this point.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to ask some questions, you could place it into the chat. And I've already started to answer some of these questions for you.
Yeah, I see a few in there. I'm just going to work on, we can also maybe allow to talk. Looks like some are not able to, but
oh, that's great. You've improved business for the grants in Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to go through what's on the chat here. So I had asked on the first slide for BC Recovery Grant. So there's no business minimum revenue on that one. I think that's where you.
That's correct. There's
the BC
no
Recovery. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's no minimum on the first one. There's a 30,000 gross for the second one, and the third one is over 150,000. Okay.
So it really does reach to, the first one really does reach to small business then.
Yes,
there's no minimum amount. And then Trish had mentioned that there's a cap for free assistance at the provider's approved hourly rates.
Yes, so if they are providers, so I'm working with an organization called Statement. So it looks like there is another organization or accounting firm in the same boat. So they're able to process these, at least the BC Recovery Grant.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that works is each of the accounting firms can be paid up to $2,000 for assisting businesses with that. So when I mentioned earlier that you can have a free service with the accounting firm to help you with that application, that's the same thing with that particular business. And based on when I spoke to Statement, in general, there's plenty of room in that $2,000 to work through it. So that's great.
Mm-hmm. And so that's different than the website or the online e-commerce side of things. That's a $7,500.
Yeah, so that's the Launch Online BC, and that one has the requirement that you get an e-commerce website. So you have to sell a physical product. So if you're just like a dentist or you provide only services, unfortunately, that's not eligible for this particular grant.
Okay. And Trish, did you want to unmute and speak to anything else on your note here as far as 100% of Maple Ridge Pit Meadows businesses have been approved and received funding?
That's fantastic. Good.
Hi, yeah, no, just as my business, I'm in Pitt Meadows and Maple Ridge. As an approved service provider, you can request local service providers if you want to keep money local within the city. But as our updates, I was told as of January 2021, 100% of the Maple Ridge and Pitt Meadow businesses that had applied for the BC Recovery Grant were approved and they have received their funding.
Wow.
That's
That's
great.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Were there any other questions? I don't see any. I thought there would be more questions than that. Although we
happy to-
didn't have very many of our registrations sign on. So, you know, these things happen with the Zoom, right? So,
Yeah, it's hard to reach everybody on a weekday.
Absolutely.
yeah.
So
Well, because we originally kind of pushed it through with that BC recovery being at the end of the month, which obviously now they've extended to August 31st, which is great. So we just wanted to make sure in case that deadline didn't get extended that we got this information out as soon as possible.
for sure.
And maybe if we can get Trish's contact information, then we can, you know, if anyone does contact us, then we can push them forward to her for the accounting side of things.
Absolutely.
That's great. If Trisha, you feel fine with that. I know I was calling you Trish, but it is Trisha.
Yes, there's another question in here. For the launch online, can a business shifting to selling products in response to qualify? So yeah, if your traditional business did not provide any physical products, you can add that as a new component to your business and start selling it online.
It could be, yeah, it could be a good way to especially justify the launch online grant is you could be predominantly service, maybe you continue to be predominantly service based, but if there's some aspect of product selling, you can use it to justify the application of the grant.
Well, we have your information here, and this I'll send out to our attendees. If I've got that approval from Peter and Chris that it's okay to send this deck out, we'll send
100%.
it out, and along with the link to the recording. And anyone that has questions or wants more information, like Peter and Chris had said, they can reach out, and maybe perhaps Trisha will talk to you guys as well about kind of feeding that in there.
Absolutely. Yep, you can, can't speak for Chris, but I can speak for me. If you need to if weekends or evenings are better for you, understandable as a business owner, sometimes the normal hours don't work so well. So I'm always available at that point to talk as well.
And just to answer Ray's question, we will send this out as a link. It'll be posted on our YouTube page. So we will share that link for you to view it that way. It won't be on our Facebook. So
Great.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thank you so much for having us here. And yeah, hopefully we'll be able to reach out to a few people and get their business help.
Yeah. And we'll be, like I said, sharing this out once we have the recording link, sharing it out. So you might see more people getting in touch with you and asking on this information. So we appreciate you reaching out to us directly and sharing this information, and we'll make sure it gets out there so people are aware.
Great. Just want to spread the knowledge.
Thank you.
Spread the knowledge, make a pivot.
We appreciate it very much. Okay.
Thank you, everybody.
Well, thank you, everyone. We will end it here and take care.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.
You too. Bye.
Thanks again.
Thank you.